I Will Hold Space for Your Darkness, a first responder mental health podcast hosted by me, Erin Jane, where we have conversations about what it's like to perform a first responder role and the mental health challenges that can accompany it. Welcome to another episode of I Will Hold Space for Your Darkness, a first responder mental health podcast. I'm your host, Erin Jane, and I am joined this morning by Chucky. Chucky is an 18-year career as a firefighter at a busy metropolitan fire department here in Massachusetts. And he was also a 12-year Navy veteran where he obtained the rank of Chief Petty Officer as an NCO. Thank you for coming over, Chucky.
Of course. Anything for you.
I appreciate it. Should we start off by telling the listeners what my nickname is?
Muffin.
And do you want to offer any explanation further?
No. Just leave it at that. This is a family-friendly podcast.
It's actually not. You're allowed to say fuck. You're allowed to say whatever it is that you want.
Thought we're going to have to edit the whole thing.
That's okay. I haven't the explicit rating. It's fine. It's fine. All right. So yeah, Chucky has popped over today to tell us about his career as a firefighter and to just kind of have a general conversation about the mental health challenges that can go along with a career such as that. So Chucky, would you like to talk to me about what made you want to join the fire department in the first place?
Yeah, I actually got into the idea of firefighting when I was in the Navy. So okay. I was in the Navy. Mm-hmm. I was on board a destroyer. Okay. And when you're on board a ship, everybody has to do firefighting. So,
okay.
Yeah, so because if the ship sinks, who's going to save you yourself, right? So I wanted to be on this elite boat crew that boarded ships and everything, but apparently I was too crazy, too wild for that. So
okay, that's
I wasn't allowed. And then the chief who was in charge at the time, I bumped into him in the mess hall, and I dropped all my stuff, all my food and everything.
Yeah.
What the fuck, chief? And he said, "What the fuck, shipmate?" And he loved me after that because I stood up to him, and he's like, "I got a job for you." He's like, "We're not giving you a gun. We're gonna put you on a team leader of a fire locker." So yeah. I started doing that, and I really liked it.
Yeah.
It obviously is not the same, but I was like, I could see myself, maybe trying this out. Mm-hmm. And then, you call home and everyone's like, "You got to take the exam. You're getting out." I never wanted to be a cop. I had bad experiences as a kid with cops in my neighborhood, so that was never on my register. Nothing against cops. They do their job.
Yeah, you kind of sitting.
I had to throw that in on purpose,
I know, that's all right.
Yeah, so I took the exam, and I took it while I was on active duty.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And I had somebody proctor it, like a lieutenant or something.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't get hired right away. So I ended up getting out, and I got a job working at Boston Ship Repair in South Boston.
Okay.
And I was basically doing the same thing I was doing in the Navy,
okay.
And I took the test again, and finally I called the second time up, and it took about a year to really get on. Yeah, from start to finish, it took close to 8-9 months, I would say.
And so is that
you get the call, and then you go through the process, your background check, and then
which by the sounds of it would have been fun for you.
No, I was fine. Luckily, I was fine. I had some friends that were well known. Yeah. So whenever they went that way, I went that way. So it worked out well for me
that's good.
In my neighborhood. But so it took a while to get on, but I finally got on, and I love it. It's a great job.
And so was
very
that
fulfilling.
Yeah. And so was that was the 8-9 months of pure waiting, or was that to the point of you were going through the process, the medical and the physical and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, actually, let me backtrack a tiny bit. Mm-hmm. So I worked at Boston Ship Repair, and then it was seasonal. So I was getting laid off all the time, and I had a young child, and I was like, I need something steady. So a family member of mine said, "Hey, they're looking for janitors at your old high school."
Oh, cool.
So it's city time and everything. So
yeah.
I applied, I got the job, and I went right from there and right in. So so I got city time. So right now, altogether, I'm at about 20 years. So.
Oh, that's perfect.
18 on the fire.
Yeah.
And then I ended up going back in the reserves later on.
Okay.
and I made chief there. I got deployed again, and
okay. So, kind of what year or how old were you when you joined the Navy?
Yeah, I went into the Navy in 1999.
Okay,
Yeah.
so just prior to like the whole fucking world exploding.
Prior to the world exploding,
After
I remember 9/11 very, very vividly. You know, I was on the ship. It was a wild day.
Oh wow! So you were deployed at the time?
No, we were actually in port in Norfolk, Virginia, when the planes hit, and every ship that was in Norfolk went out. And I'm talking, it's like a large amount of ships. We all went out, and just in case, nobody wanted another Pearl Harbor. That was the idea.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Holy shit!
So the whole base went crazy. We all went out, and
how old were you at that time?
At that time, I was 19.
Okay, so you joined like just out of high school.
I joined right out of high school. Yeah, it took me a while. I had to get a cast off my hand. I broke my hand on. I had to wait for that to heal up.
What drew you to join like the military in general, and then
Well, I hardly went to school.
Oh, okay.
Like, so high school was not. I was not really good at school. I mean, I have my master's now, but back then I was like, school's not for me. I was, I had a lot of silly friends, and I was doing silly things, and it wasn't for me. So I knew I wasn't going to go to college right away. I didn't have the grades. My SATs were terrible.
Yeah.
I already knew I was going to service. I just came home one day and I said, "Hey, I'm going to join the." Actually, I had the Marines come to my house.
Oh wow!
So I was going to join the Marines. They came to my house, 2 guys. They didn't crack a smile. I said, "Fuck these guys." Guys can't even take a joke,
Yeah.
So I was like, I had a Navy recruiter come, and he took me out drinking. I was 18.
You're like, I'm sold.
I was 18 when I met him, and he took me out drinking and stuff. And I was like, this is my service. So I joined the Navy, and
wow,
it was the best thing I did, best decision I made at the time.
And so, tell me what that process is like. Like, is there some kind of like Navy Academy that you go to, or is it all on the job sort of stuff?
Yeah, no. So I went to boot camp like everybody else, and when I went in, it was the only place left was Great Lakes. So I went to Great Lakes, Chicago.
Oh, okay.
In the middle of winter, it was fucking brutal. It was brutal.
Yeah, and like generally, like Boston winters can be brutal, but I feel like they are much worse up there.
It's like right on the water, and everything is just like hits you, and they don't. They don't care about anything. I think I got like pneumonia in boot camp, and it was like.
I thought you were going to say frostbite.
No, so yeah, I did all that and graduated, and then I came home for like 2 weeks, and then I went to my ship in Norfolk, Virginia, and I didn't come home for probably a year after that.
Wow.
I was like, fuck it, I'm just gonna do my thing,
Yeah. And so, how long were like, say, pre 9/11? How long were deployments like at that stage?
Navy deployments are pretty regular. They're pretty like on a ship. You do like 6 months, but in the reserves, we did a year. So reservists do more time than the regular Navy. So Navy, they do a whole battle group will go out and they'll do 6 months and they'll get relieved like kind of towards the end, like about 5 months in. They'll do turnovers, maybe 5.5 months.
Yeah,
and then head home. Hit a couple places on the way home.
Okay, and so but then like, are you? Say your base was like in Norfolk, Virginia. Then
my home port was Norfolk, Virginia. Yeah.
So then, do you stay there and do stuff on land, or you get a break? Or
yeah. So I actually lived on the ship for 4 years. Most people get apartments and stuff. I didn't. I was used to like Section 8 housing and stuff. So like it didn't bother me living in like close quarters and things like that. So I lived on the ship. My bed was like this high. They call them coffins, And
I was going to say, it sounds very
strap yourself in for when the ship rolls and like everything you have like gets put under your bed. Like there's a little compartment.
Oh, okay,
strap everything in, you get a tiny locker. That's how I live. So that's how I lived for 4 years.
That makes me like feel seasick just listening to us.
I only been seasick twice in my whole life. Yeah. And one of them wasn't even the Navy. I was hanging out with some buddies sailing and believe me, they let me have it.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah. I was like, I ate bad tomatoes. They were like, get the fuck.
Like a Navy ship, like you probably wouldn't. Like I was
no,
like,
you
really,
feel it.
you really?
No, you feel it. For sure, you feel it. Yeah.
Oh my.
It was on my ship was only like 300 feet, so like there was probably like 350 people on it. But if you go on an aircraft carrier, it's 5,000 people.
Oh, okay.
So my ship was fairly small,
Okay, and so what was it classified as? Did you say it was destroyer?
It was destroyer, yeah.
Destroyer. Okay, destroyer. So and what's their besides the obvious of like their name, like what was their kind of duties?
Oh,
or
so our
tasks
mission,
or- yeah, your
basically
mission,
all
there you go.
small ships, like when you're part of a battle group, you're there to protect the aircraft carrier, basically. But
Mhm.
you all have side missions. So the mission of our ship was anti-submarine. We had a
Okay.
helicopter when we got deployed, and they triangulated sonar buoys to track down submarines and a lot of pirate hunting. Believe it or not, when I first went in, they're like, "Oh." When I was in boot camp, they said, "Oh, you're gonna go to Arthur W. Radford out of Virginia, arduous sea duty." I said, "What's that?" They said, "You're gonna be out sea along." I was like, "What the fuck?" I expected it, but and that's what we did. We hunted pirates. Like my first deployment, that's all we did was hunt pirates. Like every day, all day long, just drop the boats and guys would board these ships and do things like that.
And so, like, what part of the world, if you were allowed to say?
Middle East.
Middle
Okay.
East. Off the
around
sort of east coast of Africa.
around that area. So, yeah.
Did you ever make it down south to Australia?
I did not make it down south to Australia. No, but the boys told me some great stories about Australia. The old timers.
Oh, I bet they did.
You pull in and you have your name on your hat. You throw your hat out, and then you go find the girl that has your hat. And they take you home. And I was like, that sounds awesome.
That's how I met Erin.
It makes sense.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, no, it's because the Americans used to have bases all over our country. Yeah. So I think less so now, but I don't know. I think it goes up and down in transitions, I think.
But they took me all over the world. It was nice.
Yeah.
A lot of hard work, a lot of long days, obviously. But it was it's a great experience.
And so how was it? Because I don't think I've spoken necessarily to anyone who was sort of in the military when 9/11 happened. Like, as you were, I don't know if you were like watching it on TV, like the rest of everyone.
No,
like...
we didn't. We just heard. Like, we were actually going out to sea anyway.
Oh,
so we were out getting ready to go. And, somebody came down and told us, hey, like, the plane hit one of the towers in New York. And then my captain, his father worked in the city, so he was very worried. And the second one hit, and we realized, oh, that's just not an accident. And we went out right away, and he was trying to petition us to go up to New York because a bunch of ships went up to New York to the harbor up there, but they didn't take us. And we ended up right after that we started doing workups for deployments. So,
and because like I think I presume they would have like raised the DEFCON level on that day. Or...
Oh yeah, it was crazy. Yeah, we were actually out. From there we went out for probably like a week or two, so we didn't have any news of like what was going on. So everybody was like getting inundated with all this stuff on the news, all these pictures and graphic stuff. We didn't see any of that shit. So
really,
yeah. So when we came back, it was kind of like fuck, But yeah.
So did you guys have to be radio silent when you were out to sea? Was that why?
No, it's just we didn't. TV, it wasn't like it is today. We didn't have the internet. I didn't have a cell phone. It was like it was just different.
Life was simpler.
Yeah, life was a lot simpler. I called home like once a month.
Yeah.
If that. My mother probably hates that. Still hates it because I'm very distant.
I feel like it's training. It's training, Mom.
But yeah, we ended up going on deployment right after that to the Middle East.
Yeah.
Support. And mostly hunting pirates, like I said, and doing things like that. And we hit some places going in, and then we went through the Suez Canal and the Red Sea, and then up into the Arabian Gulf, the Gulf of Oman into the Arabian Gulf, and we stayed there for like 5 months, and then made our way out. Hit a couple places on the way home to make it all worth it, to party and let loose a little bit, So
it makes sense.
Yeah.
And so. You said that sort of you got kind of like the firefighter bug while you were serving.
Yeah. So I did a lot of different things in the Navy, which was pretty cool. I drove boats. I worked on the flight deck. When we finally got deployed, I worked on the flight deck signaling helicopters, and then I moved up to like being the safety and all that stuff. But that was probably the funnest thing I did on board the ship was working with helos, on the flight deck.
Yeah.
And the firefighting, but that's just mostly practice. We never had any big fires or anything like that. So just in case shit.
And so at what point did you like decide to get out?
So I did my 4 years and I was going to stay in. And I said, I want to go to the Constitution. Can you make it happen? You know, because you talk to your detailer and stuff. And they're like, no, but we have a ship in Maine. And I was like, oh, yeah, I'll go. And then it's going to go to Hawaii. I said, all right, go. Then I'll see the West. You know, I'll do a West pack, go to Australia. But then they were like, I just kind of got sour taste. I'm like, fuck that, I'm getting out. And then like 2 weeks before I was actually scheduled to get out, they said, oh, we can get you the Constitution. I said, no, wrong guy. I'm all done.
No.
And I already taken the test, but, you know.
Yeah. And so then the rest of your time in was then, as you said, is the term a reservist?
Reservist, yeah.
Okay. So is that kind of like what they call it, the National Guard, but then for the Navy? Is that?
Yeah, the National Guard's a little different. The National Guard pretty much stays here.
Okay.
And reservists can be deployed elsewhere. Actually, I think they did deploy the National Guard at different places. But,
yeah.
But at least for the Navy, like it's mostly overseas. And they do longer deployments. I got into a boat unit, coastal riverines, and we did a year over in the Middle East as well on small boats.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
It was good work. It was tense, but it was good work. You know?
Yeah. And so was that occurring while you were on the fire department?
Yeah. I got deployed well. So I got on the fire department in 2006. I went to the academy in January 2006.
Okay. Yep.
So and then in 2010 I joined back up in the reserves.
So do you only spend a certain amount of time in the reserves, or you were kind of out and then you signed back up?
Yeah. So actually I went in for a short period of time, and my brother, really my cousin, but you know, everybody in my family helped raise him, committed suicide. So I left the reserves. You know, I took it really hard. I left the reserves, focused on the fire department, and then I ended up going back in a couple of years later. I wasn't fulfilled, as they say. You know, I had a goal that I wanted to reach that I didn't get to reach, and I ended up meeting that.
Yep. I'm sorry about your brother / cousin. That's tough. Okay, and so where were you when you first came on? Were you on a engine, a ladder? Where did you start?
So I actually started on an engine company.
Okay.
With a bunch of old timers, a couple Vietnam vets, and then a pretty big hippie. This guy wore headphones everywhere he went, like, you know, because of the noise and things like that.
Oh, yeah.
He would, can you guys put those cigarettes out? Like, fuck you, you know. So I fit right in because I was a wild human at the time.
There would have been a little bit of, I guess, camaraderie with like your service and their service.
Yeah, there was a lot. One of the guys was a Navy guy. One of the guys was a Marine, and they busted my balls quite a bit. You know, but it was welcome.
That's what they. I was going to say what they did. The new book.
You feel more at home when they do that, because if they don't, then they don't
care. Yeah. No, that makes sense. I think it's kind of the same in the police department.
Yeah.
If they care enough to give you shit.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
Generally a good sign.
Get out of here.
Exactly. And so did you stay on that place, or did you move around a bit?
I did like 9 or 10 months there. They said, hey, I said, this place is slow. It was a slow firehouse. Okay. And I was like, I was hearing these other busy companies going out of town to all these different fires and shit. And I was like, what the fuck am I doing? What did I do? What the fuck did I do? You know, like, I want to see some action. I'm young. I'm in my 20s.
Yeah.
This is crazy. So one of the old timers said, hey, when they start hiring new people, that's when you put your slip in to go somewhere else, so that way they can replace you.
Yeah.
So that's what I did. And they hired some new people, and I went to a busy company, and I stayed there for like 14 years.
Okay.
Yeah, I was on another engine company.
I was going to say, engine
busy part of time. Yeah. And I loved
it. Have you ever worked on a ladder?
Not permanently, just like overtime,
or
working for a buddy or something.
Yeah. And what is it sort of like about the engine that you really?
It's the bulwark, you know. Engine companies put fires out, you know. We call a lot of guys firefighter helpers, you know. So no, nothing wrong. Everybody contributes, you know.
Of course.
And,
yeah.
Like busted balls.
Oh, I guess
they look like shepherds with their hooks, you know. They look like shepherds with their hooks, you know. So.
And so, like you were saying, when you were working at your first engine, and like there were a lot of or a couple of Vietnam veterans, do you find the level of camaraderie like similar in the fire department as opposed to the Navy, or just like apples and oranges?
I think it's slightly different. There is a indeed brotherhood. The guys like, especially when I came on, guys drank a lot more than they do today. So we were always drinking. We were always together. Like after something, we would always go out. We would always meet up. But I had my guys were old timers, and I had a Vietnam vet. He would say, make sure I'm up at night, but don't come in my room. Don't touch me. Just yell from the door. So he was a wild human. He was a wild human.
Maybe a traumatized human, one might say.
Oh, he definitely was. He didn't want to put it on anybody else, but good guy. He took care of me.
Yep.
Kept me safe. So.
That's good. Is he still on, or is he retired now?
He's passed away now.
Oh, okay.
He's passed away just a couple of years now.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
Everybody in that crew has passed away except for the hippie. Yeah, he's still with his earphones. Yeah, he's still with his headphones, but he works in like a fire prevention type of position now. So he's a great human. He's a great guy. I love him.
Yeah.
He's just, but he's not your typical firefighter.
Yeah.
And that's okay. We need all types of people.
Yeah, and I think as well, sort of everyone can have like an opinion or a mental image of what a typical firefighter might be, but after marrying my husband and meeting so many through him that I have, it's so vast.
Yeah, people have different life experiences and they bring different things to the table, whether it's empathy or compassion or or just street smarts. Or...
now you just like almost reading.
Oh yeah, look at him reading. Segue, empowerment, encouragement. So they. Everybody brings something to the table.
Yeah.
Nice.
And do you find within your fire department or sort of like overall, are there a lot of veterans who you find tend to join?
I believe, there's a lot of veterans. Especially, we had, like I say to my son, like, you haven't, at the time, man, you haven't known a time where we haven't been at war. This is when Afghanistan was going on, things like that. And I mean,
that's only.
And the guys would just come out, and most of the guys want to stay in something that's going to keep them occupied in a way that they're being helpful.
Yeah.
And of service, obviously, because like that's basically, I've been, of service, like 25 years now. It's like, longer actually.
Yeah, and that makes sense. And I think also, having that sort of, I don't know if like routine's the right word, but like
it's the lack of routine actually. For firefighters, like we come into work and it's something different every day.
Yeah, but as in the routine of having somewhere to go, being with those people, all that kind of thing. Yeah. I think
it's a very similar feeling to being in the military.
Yeah.
You have a core crew that you operate with. And,
and that's like the sort of part of like the police department where I ended up working. We had a crew dynamic, and there was like a sergeant and I think 4 or 5 most of the time, and I liked that.
Yeah.
Whereas like when you were in general duties, so Australians aren't like Americans. We don't work one up typically, and we don't just have a partner. Like you'll just get rostered with whoever. And especially like the longer in you get more with the trainees to train them and all that kind of thing. But I always really liked that crew dynamic.
Yeah, it's nice. It's nice to have people that you can rely on regularly.
Yeah.
And
you kind of learn their strengths and weaknesses.
And you learn to kind of do things like when the job that I'm in now, I can just anticipate what my boss needs. Yeah. Which is very helpful for him because he doesn't. He's preoccupied with a bunch of stuff. So
that's an excellent segue. I feel like you've done this before, Chucky.
I have not.
So yes, tell me the role that you do now and what led to that. And
right now, I'm aide to a division chief. So we work downtown, the busy part of town, and busy part of the city, and we respond to all the major shit. I used to love doing the medicals and things like that because that's the stuff that you go home, you're like, oh, I just saved somebody. CPR or I killed somebody, whatever. But and then you go home, you're like, oh, or like I had a big fire and like, oh, I feel great, you know. But the job that I'm in now is big picture. So and I enjoy it because going up in rank in the Navy, I was in charge of a lot of big picture stuff. So now being able to assist him in the things he needs, like if we go to a fire, I do a 360, of the building, try to see what we need for resources and things like that. Point some things out to him, and also keep him on his toes. Like if he forgets things, which he doesn't, he's a very, very smart guy.
But he's human.
He's
so
human,
it's but, just kind of like being his right hand sort of thing. Like,
and we're going. Sometimes we're at these things for hours and hours and hours. Hey, did you do this, or should we rotate these guys, or whatever?
Or also, like, what the fuck else is going on in the city that maybe
exactly. And it's a very versatile job. It makes it seem like I just drive a guy around all day, but I am his driver. I get him to where he has to go, but logistically, I help him figure out the logistics of the big picture. So whether it's a gas leak or manhole explosion or a building fire or a construction accident or what have you. So.
Yeah, no, and from like I was talking to you offline before we came up to record, like my husband upgrades into that role occasionally, and he said that it's so incredibly crucial. Like the role that you perform is so crucial, because if you don't have someone like you in that role, you feel it.
Yeah, and sometimes you get a guy who doesn't necessarily do that role all the time. So like if I'm out sick, somebody will have to fill in for me, and it's harder on the deputy chief or the captain if they're in the car to maintain that scene, because now they have to think of more stuff. So it is. I like it very much.
And so how did that come about? Did you just have like a pre-existing relationship with the person who got promoted to division chief or deputy?
He's a deputy chief, but
deputy chief, okay.
But we're Division 1, so we're downtown. And not really. He taught me at fire camp, I call it. They hate that. They hate when I call it fire camp. He taught me at fire camp, the academy, and
So as in when you went.
He has his thing. He has his hands in a lot of things. He's
That's
a very intelligent
right.
guy.
Yes, I remember hearing that.
He's in the circle and very well respected. But I think I had a call. I was probably on a job 6 months where we had a baby that was born, and he was I think a lieutenant on a rescue company at the time. And the baby had just been born. We weren't there yet, so the lady delivered her own baby, but we clipped the umbilical cord, and I took out the scalpel to cut the umbilical cord, and my hand was shaking. And he's like, he reminds me all the time. It's been 20 years. He reminds me all the time. So, remember that time? I'm like,
they're like, all right.
It wouldn't happen today, but I remember. Yeah, he's a good dude, and he taught me at the academy, and then later on he went up in the ranks, and he finally came to my firehouse. The division works out of the firehouse I was at. Okay. And he had a couple of drivers that one retired, then he took another old timer that retired, and he asked a couple people because I was, he asked a couple people before me and they didn't want to do it, and they finally said, "Hey, do you want what do you think about driving?" And I was like, I don't know. I was kind of looking for a change of pace. Yeah. At that time, I don't know how many years I had on, but 13 or something, 14, and.
It can easy to become stale, and if you're doing sort of
it was the same. I was on a busy fire company. We were doing good work in a lot of medicals and things like that, and I was in the neighborhood I grew up in, so I really enjoyed it. But I was like, I need to change pace. I was kind of and he asked me, and I said, I think it took me half an hour, and I was like, I get to stay in the same house in the same group. I just moved bedrooms, and so I said, I just got to talk it over with my boss. So I talked it over with my lieutenant at the time. He said, yeah, do you get that? And at the time, I was senior man. So I was like, we have a lieutenant, then we have a senior man. So when the lieutenant's out, the senior man steps
you get the radio,
Yep. So I got the radio quite a bit back then for a young guy. And I gave all that up just to kind of try something different. Yeah. And it worked out. I really like it.
So how long have you been doing that for now?
I usually go by, it happened right about the time one of my buddies got married. So I was like, hey, what's your anniversary date? Because the years kind of blend in.
Yeah. About what, like 3 or 4-ish?
It's probably about 5 now.
Okay.
Probably about 5 or 6.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, there you go.
Something like that.
And so, how does that
Maybe
work?
it's 5, roughly.
Do you want to like start counting on your fingers and toes?
It's not that serious.
And so is that sort of just like the position that you're like comfortable in and you think you'll sort of stay in long term, or is that going to depend on his career trajectory? Like, how does that sort of work?
Well, he's always tells me to take the test. I just think he doesn't want me to drive him anymore. He's like, yeah, you got to take the test. You got to take the test. And yeah, so the test is coming up. I'm going to study for it. I was actually.
You're going to do the lieutenant's
Yeah,
test?
I took it a couple times. I did decent once, and I was, temporarily promoted for like 9 months, and then the list died.
Yeah.
And then the last one, I was kind of middle of the row. I had some stuff going on, so I didn't study hard.
Yeah.
So mental health first.
Hey.
That's right.
We'll get to that bit. Yeah, but I mean, I think my husband got captain on his second time through, and he might have even taken the deputy one last time just for like ha-has, just to kind of.
Well, you're already in the books, So
well, and he didn't really study, but it was kind of like I think he took it more to go. I want to see where I'm at, like just with like my knowledge that I have now. I want to see where I'm at, and then I'll know how much. Not that he would fucking wing it in, but how much effort I really need to.
He's a smart. Your husband's a smart dude, and he's very good on calls. I've driven him a bunch of times, and we've had some hairy stuff. Yeah, that he handles himself up.
Oh, were you the one that created the "There Will Be Blood" poster for you?
I did that.
So I think
he does have a reputation.
He does have a reputation. I think he got like
but I've been at a few. I've been at a few of them with him. Yeah.
I swear to God,
couple of train things.
I was just about to say, like, I think his first 2 upgrade, like, legitimately first 2 upgrade shifts, people jumped in front of trains.
Yeah.
Both fucking times, and he was just like,
"What
the fuck?" It's yes. I mean, I don't think he's normally a shit magnet, but
no, I mean. Shit just happens, You're bound to catch it at work at some point,
exactly.
So the longer you're on, the more shit you see, basically.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
Everybody, you're like, oh, I want busy stuff. But trust me, it'll come, dude. It'll come, and then you'll be like, it's terrible.
No, and he's the same. I think he's at certain times he's had sort of like the younger, more like. Like excitable puppy, like younger sort of people, and they want to, and he's just like,
slow the fuck
cool
down.
Your fucking jets, mate.
I think that's how everybody is when they come on, though. You're like, oh, I want to, like I was saying, I want to get out of this firehouse, and now the guy's like, oh, I'm like, hopefully I don't see you tonight. Yeah. Like, come on, dude, save that shit.
Exactly. But it's the same, like when you're a cop, you want to like go to all the jobs and all that sort of stuff, and then after a while you're like,
once you get a nice background of experience, you're kind of like, all right, like the allure is gone. Like, I just want a good night's rest.
Well, and I think it also depends on where you're at in your life and your familial circumstances. Like, if you're, I say young because I'm so old, but like if you're like
Stop it. I think you're younger than me.
I don't know, am I?
You are. We won't say it here. But she's younger than I am.
I'm 39.
Younger than me.
Well, there you go. Not by much though, I would think.
A few years.
Oh, all right.
4 years.
I wouldn't have thought that. I would have thought you were closer to it. Oh, no. You're a fuckhead. You made me lose my train of thought now. Oh, Christ. So we talked about you are looking at taking the lieutenant's exam moving forward. You really did make me lose my train of thought.
Yeah, sorry. So I'm gonna take the next one.
Mm-hmm.
I have like 11 years left, so hopefully I can rise up a little bit before I go. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's the earliest I can go. Yeah. I can stay till 65. But
who wants to do that?
I
don't think anyone wants to be like throwing their gear around at that stage.
And they're trying to make people stay longer, which is insane to me. Like 70, I'm like, I can barely do it now. No, that's a joke, but like it's a tough job. Like I can't see anybody in their 70s doing it, and things are so different than they were 30 years ago. All these buildings are so tight and like the fire.
And all like the PFAS and everything.
Yeah, there's so many forever chemicals and things like that, and like now we have to deal with these lithium-ion batteries and things like that. Just everything's so toxic.
Yeah.
Before it was like cotton furniture.
Yeah, and just plain normal wood.
Yeah,
like that would burn and you could put it out.
But don't get me wrong, those guys fought a lot of hot fires back then.
Oh, fuck yeah.
But yeah, it's just
Yeah.
things change over time,
Exactly.
And not to help us in any way. It's always like things get worse for us, detriment to like what we do.
Yeah. No, and I guess like even sort of like Eric was talking to me about the like the electrical batteries, like in like the Teslas and all that kind of crap.
So big,
and I mean they've
figure it out.
Yeah, like and that's where everyone puts like the cart before the horse. It's like clearly like great kind of technology and they're trying to do good things for the planet and like no one takes anything away from that. But it's like, but when you haven't figured out the like, when it catches on fire, you can't fucking put it out.
Oh yeah, some of these things burn for 24 hours, more than that. They catch fire later on. They'll like be put out and then they'll catch fire later.
Yeah.
So it's something that I think that the fire services has a big eye on, but
no solution to yet.
But, we weren't given a solution. They said, here, this is a new product that we're going to put out. And it just started being out of control when they do catch. And most of it is like due to, not normal, wear and tear. It's like, it's silly shit.
Like an actual like malfunction within.
Malfunction or, using the wrong stuff to charge things. And, we can talk an hour about EV stuff or the ion, but it's something that I think every firefighter that I know is like worried about and trying to figure out the best way to deal with it as time goes forward.
Yeah. Well, I know, like Eric was saying that he was in Europe, and I think they ended up talking to some firefighters over there, and they just basically picked the car up and put it in a fucking dumpster full of water,
that's
and just
their solution.
Yeah, like
that's their solution, and it's hard to do. So you got to buy all this extra shit. Like they're not.
And we're in a highly condensed, populated city. Like, there's no space to be doing that. Like,
I'm not sure if it's the best way. I don't think that we're gonna find the best way for a while.
And like you said, like,
and they're different. You got cars, you have scooters, you have electric bikes, you have your run of the mill household batteries.
There's little fucking things that the kids ride. No, I do sound old. Like the, like
the hoverboard.
No, I was going to say like Back to the Future. Like the things that they got the wheels and they light up, like the two wheels, and they put their feet on them, and then
hoverboards.
Are they?
Yeah, I think that's what they call them. They're not the Back to the Future shit.
No,
I think that's what they call them.
Like they're the ones they got bands. Like you couldn't take them on a plane because of that reason.
The part of it is people buy the wrong chargers for them. They're not the same, and they don't add up, and like it overloads them.
Yeah.
So that's a problem with a lot of them.
Were you at that fire?
I was.
Yeah, what I'm talking about.
Husband?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was.
Yeah, and like a whole bunch of them got sent to hospital.
Yeah, it was a building full of lithium-ion batteries, and
that caught fire.
They caught fire, and then later on they caught fire. Yeah, they caught fire again. And we had to submerge them in water and all those things. By the time I left, they had done other things like submerge them in water.
Yeah. What is there any protocol out about these kind of things?
We're creating
now?
it. We're creating
like
it as
just
we
in
go.
real time.
Every department seems to be creating their own way to deal with the situation, trying to go online, see what other people are doing across the country. Everybody looks at New York for advice. They have a lot of issues with them. They've been having big fires with them. And we had one recently. There was I don't know if it was a scooter or a bike that was in a hallway, caught fire, and then smoke is so toxic that
it even gets through your BA gear.
Well, at least for the like the tenant that was there, like they don't have any protection that we do, so they were stuck in their apartment. They couldn't take the stairs because most of these people, they'll put them out in their hallway, which is like the direct exit out, egress. And the guys had to, bring them through the window, make a good save, and they just got credit for it. It was a good save.
Oh, that was that one the other day?
It was the other day.
Holy shit, that was like a bike or a scooter? An EV bike or scooter?
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure but it had something to do with a lithium-ion battery type of product. Yeah, and like, if it was, you get one of those they burn hot too, so people can't get through the egress, and a lot of times people leave them in their stairwells and block their way out. So
And
we'll see. Hopefully it gets better. Hopefully everybody's learning. And
yeah. And I mean, like I did like a bit of a deep dive once we sort of found
after
out what it
that,
was.
yeah, because
because like the symptoms lasted for months, like months.
it's
Like
very toxic.
it was, you know, like nausea, and like the memory loss was like significant. Like
And
he would have the
can't lose
same.
much.
He really can't.
You know?
No, he's fucking banged his head enough over the years. Like it just kind of comes out of his ears by now. But like, and I think him and you know, one of the other people that he was like on the job with, like they'd kind of like be checking in with each other every couple of weeks, be like, you feeling this? You think?
I think a lot of people, like, we would check in with them too, like, hey, how you been feeling? Because we knew it was tough. They all went. A few of them went, and
like the memory loss was like a solid sort of 3 to 6 months. It was like, we've had this conversation 4 times. What the fuck is wrong with you?
Luckily, you guys have.
It's not just because you're old.
No, sit the sauna. Like,
yeah. Oh,
it's tremendous. And overseas, they
have them in the fire departments.
They use saunas because it helps you detoxify your skin after fire and get some of those things out of you.
Yeah. No, and that's definitely like, you know,
they probably did tremendous things.
Eric's like such a proponent for it, and I know.
He keeps telling me, you got to build one in your basement.
Oh God, is he that person at work?
No, but me and him, we're close. So you know, I pick his brain because I do enjoy the saunas.
Yeah,
you gotta get one.
Well, I've never been a sauna person, like, ever my whole life, and I mean, selfishly, I kind of started doing it because I'm like, that's 30 minutes where I can't be bothered in my own house, which is rare as a mother of 10 kids. So I was like, I might get on board that. And now, oh my God, I love it. And I'll do one. So I like sort of train like 5 or 6 days a week. And so maybe like one of those days or my rest day will be just like a walk and like half an hour sauna. And it's just, and I feel like it helps like reset your muscles and your body and everything like that too.
Tremendous for you.
But yeah, like equally, you know, it's not natural, like all of like the cortisol that builds up in your system overnight when you're doing 24 hours and you get woken up at, you know, by the alarms at like 2 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened last night.
Exactly.
I woke up with it 2. I went, by the time we got back to the firehouse, it was like 3 something.
Yeah.
And then I'm like sitting there for another 40 minutes trying to get back to bed.
Yeah.
Now I got to go see.
I know, you're like, oh God.
Yeah.
Yes, Chucky has come straight from work, so we appreciate him today.
I got breakfast first.
I offered to make it.
You did. I had
I even would have baked you muffins, but you know, whatever. Okay. So, I would, if you are happy to, switch to the topic of mental health.
Yeah, we can do whatever you want.
Okay. So obviously with your military experience and being, you know, having such a significant first responder career, I would say mental health can be challenging for anyone who's had like a level of exposure as to what like you might have had. Is it something that you consciously monitor or work on for yourself, or like not particularly?
Oh, no, yeah, I'm a constant work in progress. I go to therapy once a week.
Okay.
I have a therapist, so I've been in therapy since I came home from my last deployment.
Okay.
You know, last deployment was a tough adjustment. You know, I was away from my kids. When I was on active duty, I had no kids, so it was like, you know, I was out there.
Yeah.
You know, the last deployment, I was gone for a year, and I was away from my kids, and
that's tough.
Coming home adjusting was tough. You know, they don't. At the time, I don't think that they fully prepared, you know, guys to come home and like readjust to regular life. They give you like a silly class, but like, you know, so I started doing therapy and it worked out. I've stuck with it, but you know, I do other things. You know, I do yoga, which also helps me with the fire job, staying limber and stuff.
Well, that shit is heavy.
Yeah. Well, I don't. The good in the job I'm in now, I don't have to put it on as much as I used to.
Yeah.
But yeah, when I do, it's brutal.
Yeah, I can't. I mean, I even just the helmet. Yeah. I tried it on. I was like, fuck that.
You get used to it. I mean, it's like almost like another set of skin, you know. But I do some yoga. What else? My
Painting.
therapy. Oh, I paint. Yeah,
Mhm.
I paint on the side. I get tattoos. It's a good therapy.
Yeah.
But yeah, I paint on the side quite a bit. Actually, most of my
Mhm.
time that I'm not at work, I'll be painting.
Mhm. And Chucky was kind enough to donate a piece for. I'm actually thinking it might look better in my office. We'll have to pick a spot, but I'm very appreciative.
I think it'll look good in here with the pink.
That's what I was
Yeah.
thinking too. And as like I said to you, it gave me like Monet vibes.
Yeah.
Of like I can't think of what it's called, but it's like the one with like the garden with kind of the lily pads and all that kind of thing.
I forget what it's called too.
Yeah, it's in MoMA in New York. I was like just there like last year.
They have one. They have one because he did a couple segments like that.
Yeah.
So there's one at the Museum of Fine Arts here too. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I'll have to go back.
It's called water lilies or something.
Yeah, something like that. I don't know.
But yeah, I paint a little bit.
Yeah.
Right.
Was it something that
I try to stay in the gym. It's been tough. I actually just got over an injury, so I haven't been in the gym. Just trying to get back into that and into yoga to get a little healthy again. But it's all stuff you have to do.
well-rounded?
Yeah. But I started doing therapy right after my deployment, and I pretty much came to work and just started letting people know. Like, yeah, I'm in therapy. Like right away. Like, yeah, because I was always looked at as kind of like a nut. So it was kind of like, not that I'm getting help, but
someone steering the ship.
Well, at the time, there wasn't a lot of people at the fire that it was keep your shit to yourself.
Yeah.
Your emotions, all these different things. And being in therapy, I'm like, that's not probably the right way to do it, So I started just being vocal about it. Like, hey, I'm in therapy. So it's okay if you're in therapy.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Just let the guys know, like, and I actually had a couple of guys who were veterans, in tough shape. And they were like, if you weren't so vocal about your therapy, I don't know if I would have took a step, And also I have the background of, my brother passed away. He killed himself because for whatever reason, we don't really know the full reason. That's part of the tragedy of suicide is there's a lot of unanswered questions, but all you really need to know is sometimes it's a straw that breaks the camel's back. And if you don't go out there and look for ways to deal with your life experiences and your trauma, some have worse than others, and we collect it over time. And it does wear and tear on your body in many different ways, whether it's your mind, whether it's your other injuries and gut issues and things like that. After his suicide, I kind of like, I started running for therapy at that time. So I ran the Boston Marathon in his name, and I took it really hard, but I also tried to turn a positive spin on it and do some things, and I ended up going back in the reserves and stuff like that. But then after I got deployed, I came back and I started doing therapy, and I think that helped tremendously, and I still continue it today.
Yeah.
And I'm a big proponent of it. And that's when I learned, that's one of the reasons why I started being like, hey, like, I'm in therapy, like, not to like throw it in people's face or anything like that, but just to make it like a safe space, like, it's okay,
No, but
and now I know tons of guys that are in therapy, and luckily so, because it's a tough job. It's a tough career, it's a tough life, like we carry everything. So.
Yep. No, and that makes complete sense. And I mean, it's part of the reason why I'm doing this.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm sort of, I think like similar like you, like I don't purposefully go out of my way to broadcast my own shit, but I'm a very open person.
Me too.
And if like something that I went through that I can say, hey, like this was really fucking shitty and this is how I coped, or this is what I went through and this is how I came out the other side. And I think if that helps one person, then
absolutely.
Then,
absolutely.
And like you were saying, after the loss of your brother and trying to trying to figure out the whys and what could we have done and all that kind of thing. Like that's kind of been the story of like my life. Like that's how my dad passed away.
Yeah, and that's the reason why I did the podcast. When you shared that story, I was like, I got to do this podcast.
Oh, that's really sweet, Chucky. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I mean, I felt that connection, and it's a sad thing, and I know I have other friends who've been down that road with people they love.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's tough. And I'll tell you what, I have a son. My oldest son has autism.
Okay.
And learning how to communicate with him in a way, well, he taught me emotional intelligence, right? So before I was just like hard ass, fucking blah, blah, blah. Especially when I came back to deployment, I was on edge all the time. But I was always hard ass, and like I had to really learn to be compassionate and be aware of other people's feelings and the way that the world doesn't revolve around you. We like to think so, but the world doesn't revolve around you. And if you can put yourself in somebody else's shoes every once in a while and say, all right, like I wonder how's this making this person feel? Or, like, he taught me so much.
Yeah.
And that has been I actually thank him for it.
You what?
I thank
you thank him for it, yeah.
And I'm very open with the kids too. Like I'll be like, I remember a few years ago I was going through a tough time, like I realized mentally, and I had stopped therapy for a little bit.
Yep.
And I was on edge, and I spazzed on my kids for something. And then afterwards, I went up to my son. I said, "Hey, listen," I said, "Dad's going through something right now, and I'm sorry that I spazzed on you, bro. But like, I'm going through something, and it has nothing to do with you. And I'm sorry that I treated you that way." And he was younger at the time, but maybe later on he'll appreciate it. That I was honest with him.
No, I think that plays, and I sort of try to be the same with my kids. Like, you're a parent, it's so easy to snap, and it takes a certain time until you get to that stage where you can see, I think, any adult in your life as their own person, as opposed to just who they are to you. And like I distinctly remember, like when I sort of reached that stage, like myself, I was probably like, late teens, early 20s. I was like, oh, like, everyone else has their own kind of shit going on. It's not just reflective of what is on you. And I never have any qualms about apologizing to my kids or explaining myself. Or
we weren't given the tools, right? And our parents weren't given the tools. Right. Everybody goes off of what they learned from their parents and tries to improve it a little bit. So
and being parented in the 80s,
it's different. Like your parents didn't tell you about their feelings. Like my mother never talked about her feelings, never. And my dad died young. I was 21 when my dad died.
Okay.
I was still in the Navy.
Yeah.
And that was hard on me. And I do value those experiences, because they made me who I am today.
Yeah.
But
I view some of my losses in a similar way.
Yeah. But we weren't given the tools, so nothing is wrong the way I look at it. You know, like we're trying to improve things, and I always look at it as, be the parent that you wish was there for you. You know what I'm saying?
Or that you thought that you needed.
That you thought you needed. Yeah, that old saying.
And I agree. Like I'm very much always try to find the positive in a negative, and that's how. And I'm sort of like naturally, and have worked on, like, I feel like compassion and empathy are like, it sounds lame, but like they're kind of like my superpowers.
That's just, and honestly, it's part of our job, right? So like, as a cop or a fireman, like your job is literally to help people out there, right? It's literally to find that space when they're at their worst, and try to comfort them, whether it's by helping their family member or them or what it is, or even if it's just talking to them while somebody else is dealing with the situation. And there's a lot of it's a masculine atmosphere, but there's room for compassion, and things like that. And when I first got on the job, it wasn't that. It was like And now it's like, now I'm like, hey, like, make sure the guy's all right, or like
Yeah.
if a guy's like, missing work or stuff like that, like, hey, what's going on at home? Like, it's not just because the guy's a shitbag.
Yeah.
He probably has other shit going on that he doesn't talk about because guys
Yeah.
typically don't talk about the shit,
Yeah.
And sometimes you have to read into things and like,
Yeah.
if
100%.
not, ask the questions.
Yeah.
So
Because like if they choose not to engage, well, at least you've
tried.
tried.
Yeah.
Exactly. And like sort of like one of the things that I took sort of from my childhood was I was always really busy, obviously back home, but I always wanted to do something in like the suicide prevention crisis area. And I sort of looked into it for like, we call it Lifeline at home, but you had to go through like the training and the shifts that they needed. And from my schedule as a cop, it just wasn't something that I felt like I could facilitate. And then when I came over here, I first came over just for like 6 months, and I'm like, okay, it's great. I get to be with my new husband. I'm going to go fucking stir crazy if I don't have anything to do. So I started researching stuff even before I left Australia. And I found a suicide prevention and crisis counselling organization in Boston.
What was it? What's the name?
Samaritans.
I ran the marathon for them. Yeah,
did you?
Name, yeah.
Oh, that's brilliant. Yeah. Oh, they would have so appreciated
my cousin is still very involved with that.
Yeah.
She's ran several marathons for them. She helped with their crisis line.
Yep.
So, and she organizes a ton for them.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Oh, good for her. Yeah. And so it's like, I sort of, I think, my dad passed away so long ago that you kind of reach certain points in your life where you're like, I'm just good. Like, it is what it is. And, but I think there are still certain parts of yourself that can be healed, even if you don't necessarily think that they need it.
Absolutely.
And
they come up at the most inopportune times.
Oh, don't they? Yeah, I know, right?
So.
And I feel like that sort of gave me a little, like, having the opportunity to volunteer, and then I ended up working for them. Like, it gave me I don't know, just that kind of ability to give back to that struggling community in a different way than you can when you're a cop, because it's purely just offering support, as opposed to when you're a cop, sometimes, even though you're doing it for the right reasons, you're either having to like take people against their will to go and get a psychiatric assessment if they'd either just tried or were suffering from suicidal ideation, or they just attempted. So you're there trying to rescue them, or you end up in the aftermath and then have to like learn about them in death, that you never knew them in life. And that's weird in itself. So
it is. And then like in our profession, the fire profession, we go to a lot of medicals. So and like since then I've seen multiple suicides.
Yeah.
And it hits, and some are the way he did it, and some are different ways, but in some you're like, yeah, I'm good. You go home, you joke around the fire table, this and that, and then you go home and you decompress, and that's when you're like, shit, like I gotta go to therapy, or talk to therapy, or I gotta hit the gym, or whatever somebody does to relieve that.
Yeah.
Those feelings,
Yeah. No, and that makes sense.
The sauna.
He's
get
really,
away, or just get away from the kids.
He's really stuck in that. Just sort of like one last question about like the therapy aspect. Was it something that you recognized about yourself when you said that you came home and were struggling to readjust? Was it you, or was someone important in your life going, you're not fucking okay?
It was both. I was very self-destructive.
Okay.
I was doing wild shit.
Yeah.
I was doing wild shit. And I don't want to talk about it, but I was doing wild shit, and I definitely had to, I reeled it in quickly, and got my mind right. And I just been, doing it ever since. It was like, honestly, like, probably everybody could use it.
Yeah.
Use a little bit of it, whether they know it or not, the firehouse is a funny thing, because, you go and you have these calls, and the CISM will call you, critical incident stress management will call you and say, hey, are you okay from this? And you're like, yeah, I'm good. Hang up the fucking phone. Yeah. And no, baby just died in my hands or something, or whatever the case may be with each person. But yeah, you just shrug it off, and you either get help on your own, or just But in the old days, they would just drink.
Yeah.
There's a lot of alcoholics, and that has gone. Since I've been on the job, has gone way down.
Yeah.
Guys go out drinking occasionally, but there's a lot of family. Most dads weren't around. And now I see more dads taking care of their kids and things like that. So things have been changing positively.
Yeah. Have you ever had to go to one of like the CISM debriefings at all, or you've only ever experienced just like the kind of the check-in?
Yeah, I had to check in over the phone a couple times. I did this thing at home base. You know what home base is?
Yes, I do.
So, but it wasn't for me personally. It was
Okay.
kind of they were looking on how to deal with veterans with mental health issues that have come home from deployment that that need to be talked down by like a cop or, typically, if there's a weapon or something involved, cops will, intervene first and clear the scene and things like that. So they were asking us, just a bunch of questions on like, how would we, deal with this so they can get a protocol going. But that was years ago.
No, I mean, like, so, and again, this feels like years ago too. So when I went to the Massachusetts State Suicide Conference, and I went because I spoke on a panel for Samaritans, but I went to not a conference, like a presentation that they did, and it sounds like they're doing like amazing work. Like they have that. It's all like free, like obviously they get funding and all that kind of thing. But yeah, for veterans, and they come from all over the country, and then they also pay for like the family to come out too, so they can all do it together. Yeah. And then there was the run for home base back in, I want to say it was June.
Yeah, they do it annually now.
It's like a 5 or a 9K. Yeah. I
haven't done it. My running days are over.
I was going to say, we could do it together next year, maybe, but maybe it might be a brisk walk.
My lady, she was just like, do you want to start jogging? I'm like,
right. But I know we just went off on a bit of a tangent, but I think it's
relative.
True. I think it's great that you have such a high level of self-awareness, because a lot in terms of knowing you're like, no, I need to kind of go and speak to someone, because not everyone does, or they fight against it. And
I'm not going to say that I always was, with the program.
Oh, look.
I grew up where, like I said, nobody talked about their feelings.
Yeah.
And I had a lot of, wild days back when I was a youth, and then, my brother, killing himself, and then my dad dying, and then my service, and then the fire department. So everything accumulates, over time.
It does.
And you reach a point where you're like, damn, like I'm not okay, and you have to be willing to try to make it. You know?
And that's, but it is impactful, because then you're taking on that responsibility when a lot of people just kind of want to bury their head in the sand and just pretend like they're okay when they're being a fucking asshole to their kids, because they're going through so much stuff and they're ruining relationships. And
I had a great support system, at the time, which was beautiful.
Yeah.
And if I was alone, who knows? I don't know if I was that dire, but I was definitely edgy,
struggle town population. You
you adapt as time goes on, and I hope that more men, in particular, it's always been a stigma for men to seek therapy. It's a woman's thing or something like that, which is it's crazy. We all have feelings and shit. Some people hide them better than others. Some people ignore them better than others. And that's it. Sometimes you ignore it so much that like it overwhelms you.
But in saying that, like, it's actually almost the opposite. It's almost more important for men to engage in talking to someone, whether it's therapy, whether it's like coaching, like what I offer, which is, just trying to encourage people to just talk, like just be listened to, just be heard out, because let's say like you're saying, like women, like we will normally more openly talk about our feelings with our friends, whereas because of that stigma attached to men, and in particular in like a first responder community, like they kind of need it more than
Yeah, and guys
the
bust
rest.
balls, like that's their
Yeah.
job, right? So everything's a joke, and that's how you get over things. Like you have a bloody scene, you go back, you're eating spaghetti, you're like, what does this remind you of?
Yeah.
And you just kind of joke it off and then go home and you're by yourself.
Yeah.
And most people, like most stuff, you can disassociate and be like, that had nothing to do with me. But when it's impactful, when it happens to, somebody that's young or, something that
reminds
actually
you of
triggers
else.
exactly, then, those are the things that are like, fuck, carry with it.
Yeah. And, I've sort of spoken about it previously, like it's healthy to be able to have that separation and to disassociate, but to a point. Like it's healthy to maintain your level of professionalism at a challenging scene. But that doesn't mean that, like you're saying, it doesn't impact you.
Yeah.
Then when you go home and like, oof.
Because it doesn't just impact you. We all know, right? It impacts everybody around you. You're a grumpy asshole. Like, kids are like, my fucking dad's an asshole, And then later on, they're like, yeah, my dad never, he never showed any emotion growing up.
Like, wonder why.
And then you try to, and I know guys in the same boat, and then they're trying to do things differently with their kids.
Yeah.
And I like to see that. I like to see that because kids are so, you're the hero, and not just like in this position that I'm in life, but like as a general, as a parent, you're the hero, right? So you create a standard for them or how to act when they're older and
or a place of safety.
Yeah, exactly. But
I don't know, I get called the fun police in my household.
The fun police? Tell me why.
Why do you think? Because Eric gets to do all the fun shit with them, and I'm like, can you put this away? Can you pick this up? No. Or it's just like, you're so boring. That is way more fun. I'm like, okay. I'm like, just remember who fucking does everything for you. But okay.
Right. My mom was awesome. She is an awesome woman. She's great. I'm glad I had her as a mom because I put her through a lot of shit, but she was really good to me.
And you had a lot of siblings, don't you?
No, I have a sister.
Oh, okay.
I have a lot of cousins.
Okay, that's maybe
100 first cousins. In the city. Yeah, it's crazy. It's like my grandmother had 11, 12 kids.
Yeah.
They all had kids, grandkids, and that's just on my mother's side.
Wow.
On my dad's side.
Yeah.
But,
that's good. She sounds like a nice woman.
My mom? Yeah, she's awesome. She's still in the city. She works there. Yep, she's a school teacher.
Cool.
So yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I bet she knew how to rule you, being a school teacher.
She's a very calm. She's a very calm lady. She's not author. What's it? You say it. Say it with your accent.
I can't because now
she wasn't very strict. She wasn't very a very strict woman. She wasn't hard on me. She was very compassionate with me.
Authoritarian. No, I can't even say now.
She never expressed her feelings.
Okay.
But she was super compassionate with me and whatever I had going on in life.
Yeah.
And I think that helped me, later on realize like, hey, I need a little bit of this. Or maybe it rubbed off on me.
Yeah.
And like I said, when I had kids, like
it changes you.
Yeah, kids change you regardless, right?
Yeah.
So you want to be better than you got.
Yeah.
Especially as a father role model.
Yeah, that makes sense. And so, was there any? And I know, like we're going back a few years now, but was there any education about mental health either when you entered the Navy or the fire department?
Navy, no. They would I think later on they would do you have your annual training. They do suicide training.
Oh, do they? Okay.
Because it's very prevalent. People in the military commit suicide. It's like 22 people a day.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe that number has changed since then.
I think it's still the
there's a company out there called 22 Kill, and that's what they do. They concentrate on veteran suicide.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I think I actually learned that statistic at that home-based presentation, and it was before it became like the 22 push-up challenge. It was on social media and all that kind of thing, and that shocking statistic.
They did all that type of stuff.
Okay.
A lot of sexual assault stuff too, because it's very prevalent in the service. But but nothing about taking care of yourself, really.
Yeah.
In the fire service, when I first got on, zero.
Yeah.
You know, like shut your mouth, like keep your shit to yourself, like don't be a baby, this and that. You know, nobody really said that, but you know, it's expected.
Yeah.
And that's just the, you know, you grew up in the 80s and 90s, and that was just the, you know, the way
How
it was, you know, and you know, as you get older and I think a lot of the guys now, we still joke around, we still fuck around and stuff, but you know, guys will sit down, especially with their close buddies, and have serious talks. You know, you're not going to have it with every Jake out there, you know, but you know, with your close buddies, you're going to be like, hey,
it seems like
you're going to inquire. Like before, guys weren't. You know, the whole joke is like, you know, you go golfing with somebody, and they're like, oh, how'd it go? It's like, it was good. Like, well, you know, they'll ask you questions about your friend, and like, well, I don't know. Because you don't talk about shit, you know? And I think that now, you know, you got close buddies and you do share a little more and shit, like, oh, yeah, stress it.
Yeah. But it sounds like as well, there's like that camaraderie at, you know, like the firehouse, like kitchen table where you guys will bust balls, but it seems like there will be like the delineation of, if you say you have had like a really tough call where there is that kind of quiet word on the side, like maybe later in the shift going like, are you good? Like, or just that basic inquiry, or not particularly?
I don't know if guys even say that. Like, I don't think I've witnessed anybody say like, hey, are you good? You know, except when CISM calls, you know, or they call, you know, to like try to inquire on the thing. I think that if you're a good friend, you're going to, you know, talk to your buddies anyway, you know, and be like, hey, like that shit was fucked up, you know?
Yeah.
Like, and then later on you might say, hey man, that call still fucking bothers me. Like this much time later, but I think just knowing that you had the shared experience is like almost enough for the fire guys. You know, like we have the shared experience, and we'll always have that, and it's probably gonna stick with all of us forever. You know.
Yeah. And
so you feel closer to them. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but you feel a little closer to them as time goes on, even if you move firehouses and things like that. You know,
you always have that we did that job together.
Yeah.
No, I definitely understand that, and that was the same as when you went to tough jobs as a copper. Like
copper.
Like I had one challenging job, and the guy that I worked with ended up leaving, and I think it was, from what I understood, not because of that job, but I feel like that job that we went to sort of played a role in terms of that straw that broke the camel's back, from what I understood. And
we've had guys do the same thing. You know, I have several actually that I can recall. You know,
And so
but it's not just that. You know, they have other baggage or other trauma that they carry, and it all kind of, like you said, it's the straw that broke the camel's back. And if that's what they need to survive, to get away from this environment, like you got to do what you got to do. You know, your 100%. Your health is way more important than anything else. You know, you did, you know, a great service to people by the time you could. You know, but if you can't do it anymore, it's too much for you. Like you got to, you know, do what you got to do.
Yeah, exactly. And like, you know, they're saying the, you know, statistics, not to depress you, but you know, like there's more firefighters dying by suicide than in the line of duty. I think it's similar for cops.
Yeah, I would bet that's pretty accurate. You know, I don't recall the stats now on firefighters dying in the line of duty, but trauma is heavy, man. It's heavy. You know, I think that I used to be involved at the union. I'm not sure what they do now, but like, you know, they have their conventions and things like that. And I'm sure it's a hot topic. I'm sure it's a lot about,
I mean, cancer screening's big at the moment too, but
cancer screening's
the
huge,
mental health needs to be. So I understand you have your own outside person.
I do.
Are they what you would call sort of culturally informed?
About the fire service?
Or just like, because obviously you were a veteran when you originally went and saw them, and like...
I actually prefer, this might be weird, but I prefer women therapists. It's harder to open up to a guy, you know, just like a firehouse, right? So like I prefer women therapists. I had a couple of guy therapists at first. I've jumped to different therapists, you know, but one therapist, she decided to go into like more of like a mentoring role.
Okay.
So she closed her practice and started mentoring corporate executives, and then I had another one move to California. So you kind of have to jump and find the best fit for you. And had a couple of trainers like, this works for now, but I need somebody. So the woman that I have now, she's very good.
Yeah,
she's very good. I'm very happy with her. She's a lot younger than me, but she's got her shit together.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah, but I mean that's sort of, you know, I'm studying to become a therapist, and my plan is to solely work with first responders.
Oh, awesome.
And it is like a double-edged sword, because either I could be, like you're saying, the preference that you come and talk to because you'll know of my background and you'll know that I've been a spouse of a firefighter and all that kind of thing, or equally some guys just do not want to talk to a woman, and that's okay
that's
too.
A preference, you know.
Yeah.
Like I was raised with all women anyway. You know, my mother, my sister, like so it's not a big deal. And, I think my lady has no experience with first responders. I think she has like a certificate or something.
Oh,
okay, stuff like that. Like that's why I reached out to her. She did have part of her profile was, you know, she worked with veterans before, but it wasn't on a big scale. Actually, excuse me. Let me stop it. She did work at the VA a little bit.
Okay.
So yeah.
And because there's a lot of conversation around, and there's a organization that I'm affiliated with called the Overwatch Collective. They're based out in California, and they're a non-for-profit, and they fund therapy for first responders and military veterans and spouses and all that kind of thing.
Don't forget about the spouses. The spouses carry so much weight too, right?
I know. I know.
You're not just a spouse, though. You know, you're part of the family too. With, you know, being, you know, a cop for many years.
Well, so I mean, that's why I do what I do, and that's why I try to, I guess, just put myself out there. And again, like, I'm kind of an open book, and I'm always happy to talk about my own things. But I mean, I think it helps out in our marriage. Probably have to ask him if he thinks it does.
Well, subtly, because he probably doesn't even know you're analyzing him, you know, because he's such a dummy, you know.
But I think it's important to. I love that one. But I think from my perspective, and being able to like help first responders and spouses, I think it's important to know it from both perspectives. And
that is it's a great tool you're going to be able to use. You know?
Yeah. And
how far away are you from getting all your?
So long.
Work in progress.
So far.
It'll happen before you know it. It'll be like, I'm done now. Right? Now I got to get clients. I got to get all these clients.
So that's why I try to do the coaching now.
Yeah. And this podcast is going to help tremendously with clients and things like that. You know,
I mean, look, yeah, I mean, hopefully, but it's kind of, I love having this kind of conversations, and if it gets me out there and people feel like they can connect, or that I'm someone that they want to talk to, well, then that's brilliant. But it's more just, you know, I just kind of I feel really passionately about this population, and I just want to help. And so coaching is a way that I can help in the meantime. And, you know, like the people that I work with, I obviously hope that, you know, they get some comfort and improvement in their lives as a result. And I just think that there's a broad gap between like talking to someone at peer support and going to therapy. Yeah. And I think a lot of people can get lost in that void and in that gap because, like you said, a lot of people might be resistant to going to therapy, even if I am just a transition spot for them, that they get comfortable talking to someone.
Yeah, you have a great platform. I mean, and your social media is like is very informative.
Oh, thank you.
It is. You know, obviously I follow you. You know, I try to like as much stuff as I can. But everything is like, you know, nowadays is like speed. You know, trying to like, you know, decipher things online. It's like, but having that on there and seeing it reminds me, like, you know, like there's people out there that are helping.
Yeah. Nice. I mean, we also
and I've listened to a few podcasts, and like you having great conversations.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah, it's just, I think, and you know, I call this the Rorschach room because it's filled with my boys' crazy pictures. Like the one right behind you, that's from Maxie, and it says the inside of a flying god.
Awesome.
And he just came up with that all of his own. So, but I think it's, you know, there's heaps of podcasts that, you know, you can listen to, and there's people more educated than me and more experienced than me and all that kind of thing. But the people that they often have conversations with too.
Though, right?
I know. But I'm just prefacing it by saying that, like, I think just having conversations with, just like you're like a normal firefighter or a normal cop or a normal dispatcher or paramedic or whatever, like, I think it just kind of shows like our shared humanity, that we're all the same and we're all experiencing shit and we're all trying to muddle the fuck through everything.
Do the best we fucking can,
Exactly. Like, and I think that's what I love. I just love having
I just want to be at my best when you're at your worst, and I think that's part of it. It's like you got to show up for your family. You have to show up for the people that you're taking care of on the street, and part of that is being mentally healthy. And I think that having your platform is helping people. Just like just hearing stories.
Yeah,
because like what it is. Like we were saying, like a lot of people are scared of therapy, or there's a stigma still. Hopefully it gets a little better. I think it has. I think tremendously has.
Definitely.
But just seeing it on social media is I follow a lot of mental health stuff. Yeah. Just to you need the reminders. You need the positivity. You need all these different things, and it can't just be all doom and gloom on the internet.
No. Because I think there's enough of that out there. And that's kind of one of the aspects I do really like about coaching, is that it's client led. So it's not you coming to me, and me telling you what to do, or sitting there and just sort of like being peppered with questions. It's just, and I think, first responders, a lot of the time you're in control, and that's like a domain that you feel really comfortable in. Yeah. So to be able to come and like, okay, I'm like someone for you to unburden yourself on, but like you still get to pick what we talk about and what we work on. And okay, I might hit you with some insight, but I think that for this population, I think it can resonate a little bit, a little bit more sometimes.
Absolutely.
But we'll see.
And even the old timers are online.
Yeah.
And I think the more you're exposed to, the more exposure you have to things, the more aware you become of like the differences or the similarities that you share with other people. Yeah. How to work things out.
Yeah, exactly. And so, obviously you seek assistance outside of the fire department. What is, or are you aware of like the process that if you wanted to go through, like, do you have like an EAP?
Oh yeah, we have an EAP program where if guys are really, hard up, we have a number that's, posted on every firehouse, things like that. I think a lot of it too comes from home, like you have a spouse or a partner that's like, hey, like I noticed that you've been like, whatever, like, hopefully they have that support and they have that to have the dialogue and be acceptable, because maybe it might not be, but like, hey, I'm worried about you.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's also something that's sort of getting spoken a lot about more as well, is like the education side for your spouses to kind of go, or your partners or whoever, like it's like, at what point are we informing these people of the things that they should be keeping an eye out for to help support and protect their partners?
Yeah, well, it's tough because they want to protect the partner who's doing the job, doing that serious job, but at the same time, that firefighter, that cop is trying to protect their spouse or partner from
100%
the things that they have to carry.
Yeah,
right. So
it's a delicate balance.
Yeah, you don't always speak about what's what's bothering you or what has been bothering you. Just to save them a little bit of pain.
Yeah, no, definitely.
So, but the little signs, right? Like you were saying, like paying attention to the little signs, like you're off.
Yeah. Or it's like,
hopefully they could.
Yeah. Or it's kind of like, if someone comes home and they're kind of being a dick, like it's like, okay, like, is it just because you're tired? Is it just because that's your personality? Or is something bothering you?
Super comfortable with talking to their partner about things like that. Like, man, I had a shit night. Like this happened. Yeah. That's, shit, babe. Like that stuff. You need breakfast. What can I do for you?
Yeah.
And some people just, especially guys have probably been on that job a lot longer than I have. I just used to going home and
kind of
and eating it.
brick wall and
And eating it, and they're a different generation, and they might have operated in a way where they dealt with things. I think there's a lot more that has to do with it nowadays too. I mean, people have gut problems, which interact with your brain, and like there's a lot of hormone issues these days, and it's things that, with the food we're eating.
I was gonna say
everything collectively is working with each other to to hurt you in a way, and I think that goes a long way, because people ate different food back then, and it's not just about food, but all your environment. So the things you take in, whether it's social media, everything you take in is affecting you in some type of way, whether it's food, whether it's non-exercise, like the things that keep you, keep your body happy and your body healthy, and then you add all this trauma onto it. And it's nah. So I guess the point I was trying to make is they're not, they're from a different era, but they had different environmental issues that are different today.
Yeah, very much so.
And I think there's a lot of science in that, the gut-brain connection, and different food's so different now that it's causing people there's more people with mental health issues these days. And collectively, it all has to do with each other. You gotta kind of limit the amount of
there's
things that fuck you up.
Sort of bi-directional that everything impacts each other and all that kind of thing.
And I think when you view it like that, you start saying, "Oh, I gotta cut this out, or cut that out, or I have to exercise more." And the more you collectively do a bunch of different things, the better you feel.
Oh yeah, and I mean, it's like I don't enjoy getting up at 5 o'clock every day to work out. It's not the most thrilling thing in the world.
You're a working mom. You have your kids. You have
it's that, but in time gone by, not embarrassed to say, it would have been more about how I looked, striving for something aesthetically, and that's not to say that that's completely diminished, but the more I exercise, the more I recognize that it's actually for my mental health, way more than anything else, and I feel like making my body strong makes my mind strong, and it's that's the one thing that I do for myself every single day that I'm that's just for me.
And you gotta save time.
And it's do I want to look nice for my husband? 100%. Do I want to be fit and healthy for my kids? 100%. But it's the one thing that I'm no, I do this for me. And then it sets the tone and the intention for the day. And then I'm nothing can touch me after that. I'm good.
Yeah, you're already starting off on a positive road,
Oh, and when you're...
I do not do that.
No.
I'm trying to get back into it.
But, so I was talking to...
But my kids are not young. I don't have to prioritize my time the way you do, because of your business and your online presence and
my psych studies.
Actually education and taking care of your 3 children.
Yes, exactly. The big one is the most problematic. Exactly. I will tell you that is the most demanding. But okay, I think we've sort of probably covered everything that I wanted to cover. No, I appreciate that. So I typically will finish these conversations asking the guests 2 main questions, and it is to do with, so the name of the podcast is I Will Hold Space for Your Darkness, and that stems from a Brené Brown quote, but it's also, I think, from everything that we've spoken about, the first responder realm, there's so much darkness permeates, and in the things that we do and the things that we see and the things that we experience, and even just being surrounded by death a lot of the time. So the first question I like to ask is, what do you do for yourself to help you hold space for your darkness?
Well, obviously I'm in therapy, I try to keep a positive attitude about everything. I'm a pretty optimistic person, even though I've been through a bunch of shit. Pretty optimistic. I try to do the little things, like the yoga or stuff that just I know makes me feel better at the end of the day. I know it takes a little bit of stress off my plate. Stuff like that. It's nothing crazy. There's no major science behind it. It's just I'm not on any medication or anything like that. I try to do the little things, and sometimes I gotta get pushed to do it. My old lady is a pit bull sometimes. She'll be like, "Oh, let's go for a walk, or let's do this,"
Yeah.
And it helps.
Or
It
go
helps
for like a
tremendously.
hike and
Oh yeah, I hike. No, I hike quite a bit. Yeah,
Yeah.
we've done a couple mountains. We just did Franconia's Loop, which is like 3 mountains. It's like a brutal day.
yeah, you said it was like some ridiculous.
Yeah, it was like 8 to 10 hours, something. Maybe even longer than that. But
No.
yeah. So I like to hike.
Yeah.
I go for walks in the woods and stuff like that.
Mhm.
I do yoga. Try to hit the weights as much
Yeah.
as I can. Like I said, I'm coming back from an injury, so I'm getting back into that. But
Mhm.
spending time with family,
Yeah.
whether it's like, each kid is different.
Yeah.
So each kid you got to do something different for or with
Mhm.
to get that time. And I try to separate it too, because like when they're all together, they're teenagers. They're like,
I'm yet to reach that realm, so
yeah, I can see
I'll
the light at
come.
the end of the tunnel.
Oh
Yeah.
Jesus, I've got a long way to go. And so the second
I
question
like to
is,
spend time with my partner too. She's
Yes.
tremendous. So
Mhm.
she helps me when I forget to take care of myself, because
That's lovely.
a lot of the times
Yeah.
I put myself last, especially being in the profession I'm in. We're
Mhm.
used to taking care of other people, so
Yeah.
I'm last on the list, and she makes sure that I don't.
That's nice.
Yeah,
Has she got like a first responder background, or she's totally outside
she's actually
of
a
it?
dispatcher.
Is she really?
She's a dispatcher for
Oh, fantastic.
a college police,
Okay.
a university police.
Mhm.
Yeah, so
Nice.
yeah,
That's
but
good.
she's been doing it now for probably like a year and a half, maybe 2 years,
Yeah.
and it's not for her. She's studying to be a therapist as well. She likes to help people with their feelings, so
There you go.
I get analyzed quite a bit as well. So I know exactly where your old man's coming from. So
No, I do not. Okay.
it's
You
not that
know
drastic,
him.
but it's subtle. And I know you probably could be subtle with them.
I don't know, like, so there's a significant age gap between him and I.
So me and her as well.
Okay, yeah. So ours is 15 years. Is yours similar?
It's like 8 or 9.
Okay, yeah.
And I don't know.
He is, I think he's fucking marvelous. I think he's the best.
Awesome, yeah.
But he is such a secure person within himself. I don't really feel the need to like analyze him, because he is who he is.
Mm-hmm.
And I love and accept him for that. And in like the things that I adore and the things that piss me off, but that's all wrapped up in the same like package that, honestly, I probably spend more time like analyzing myself.
Do you notice when he's off?
Oh fuck
and
yeah!
Like that's what I meant. I don't mean like I don't mean like literally like I think you notice when he's off, and
it's
you
gauging.
try to give him either space or or whatever he needs.
Yeah,
that's what she does to me.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I think, and I think as the spouse of a first responder, that is such a not often talked about, but like crucial aspect. Like when you go to a job, right? You kind of got to go in and be able to like read the room real quick, read the situation. Obviously, in your role as like the tactical aid. I had to throw it in there. Like that's clearly something that you're really good at, like being able to go in and assess the situation like really, really quickly. I feel that you have to like, I can judge his energy like as soon as he walks in the door. And it's and it's generally like, and he's great. Like our kids are still so little. So I feel like he really has to kind of put a bit of a mask on sometimes, because he doesn't want that to impact them, but then drops them to school and he might come home and be like, oh. But I just, him, he's not like a massive talker, and
no,
even despite what I do and what I want to do, like I think he knows that he can talk to me if he wants to, and sometimes he will. We actually have a very inappropriate scale of he's probably told you of like how bad his night was. So it was like whether he was like sodomized inappropriately or like, you know, just the tip just for a second, or it was just a brief reach around. Like that's kind of the scale that we use. And he'll be like, no, I got bent over severely last night. I'm like, okay, what do you want for brekkie? What can I do for you? I'll do this. I'll manage dinner. You have a nap late, all that kind of thing. So I think but those subtle nuances, I think they do make.
Yeah, just notice the little things and kind of like adapt, you know.
Yeah, that makes sense. All right. And I mean, maybe you kind of answered it, but yeah, the final question was, what can someone do to help and support you hold space for your darkness? And maybe you just answered it. I don't know.
I think sometimes it is just the space, you know. Sometimes people don't know that something affects them.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So you're going and you're just going about your emotions. You might be a little cranky or whatever. You don't know that this bothers you. You know? And like, okay, what's wrong with you?
Yeah.
It's like,
you don't know that you're outwardly. Yeah.
And then sometimes it takes a fight for it to come up where you're like, you get into a fight about something. You're like, shit, like, oh man, like, you know, my bad. Like I had fucking, you know, this happened or whatever. And then you got to kind of apologize and step back a little bit and be like,
an apology. I'm sorry. I don't know what that is.
I'm big on taking accountability. You know, you got to take accountability. Like you can't just shit on someone and expect them to take it. You know, you got to be like, hey, like this, this is obviously like something I have going on.
Yeah.
You know, and I didn't mean to take it out on you. You know, like I was saying with my kids earlier. You know?
Yeah.
But you do it with your partner. You know, if you can recognize it. Sometimes they don't recognize it until the fight's over and she's like, shit, like, you know, and sometimes it has nothing to do with work.
Yeah.
You know, but just life stresses.
Yeah. No, that makes sense.
So sometimes it's space, you know, sometimes it's, hey, let's go for a walk. You know, hey, let's go for a hike, or you know, doing a yoga class. We do a lot together, so like do yoga together, and like she works nights, so
okay,
that's the time for us to bond, to do these, you know, do these things. Some of them are spiritual, you know, they you know, help you decompress and get your head right. I think yoga is tremendous for that. Not only is it good for your body, but it's good for your mind.
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah, I think so.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Chucky, for coming on. I really appreciate it. All right, I have talked your ear off for far too long, so I will let you go home and hopefully get some sleep. All right, this has been another episode of I Will Hold Space for Your Darkness. I've been your host, Erin Jane. Thank you for listening, and as always, let me listen in a way you've never been heard. Cheers. Hi guys, it's Erin Jane here. Firstly, thank you for listening to I Will Hold Space for Your Darkness. This podcast really is for you, the listener, and I hope you're finding as much value in listening to these conversations as I am in having them. If you'd like to offer any feedback, suggest a subject matter, are interested in being a podcast guest, or would like to get in contact to receive first responder life and wellness coaching services, please reach out. You can find me on Instagram at Erin Jane Coaching or my website, www.erinjanecoaching.com. I look forward to hearing from you, and I'm so grateful to have you as part of this darkness community. Cheers.